Hello and a warm welcome to all of you. I'm Moshmi from Paytm. As you would all know, Paytm itself has been in the startup ecosystem for some time now. And a lot of our newer business initiatives still operate like one. Since we have been in this business, we do understand the importance of storytelling. We do understand the importance of brand building and, of course, data management, how to focus on marketing revenues, ROI, etc. Your brands and companies today will be entering into the growth phase, for which we have our industry experts who have been in this ever evolving digital space, who wish to share their thoughts and experiences with you today. So without much ado, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Aditya Swaminathan from Paytm Ads, to walk you through the entire data-driven advertising formats. Also, just one quick thing, in case you have any queries and questions, please do feel free to drop them in the chat box here. We shall address them at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Aditya.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for that warm welcome, Moshmi. Hello, everybody. I'm Aditya from the Paytm Ads team, and I'm here today to talk about how you can set up your startups for success using data-driven marketing practices. Let me quickly share my screen, and we'll get on with the content right away. Moshmi, is my screen visible to everyone there?
Sure it is, Adi.
Great, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So here today at Business Hours for Startups by Paytm for Business, I'm going to talk about the digital landscape of India and where we try to understand what Indian customers are up to, the demographic consumption habits, and how you can plan your digital marketing practice based on data and understanding of the ecosystem. But before we get to the real crux of the presentation, I thought, why not we quickly have a warm up with a few questions for your poll. So we have a couple of interesting questions to ask you just to understand and gauge what you know about it. Also, it will be a interesting way to learn. And there will be a poll that will come on your screen now on which you could vote for the answers. And then let's get on with it, right? So here's the first question. Out of the 1.4 billion population, what is India's internet base? Is it A, 822 million, or B, 400 million, or C, 622 million, or D, 700 million users? I think the poll should be available for you now to vote. It should be on the screen for about 10 to 15 seconds, and we'll just wait to get the answers. Okay. Do we have the answers, Moshmi?
Yes, Ari. Aman will just be sharing that with you. Just a moment.
Great. I think an astounding 62% of them got the answer right. The answer is actually 822 million users are connected to the internet, both through broadband or through your mobile devices, which is roughly about 9% year-on-year growth, and that's 60% of the total population. Going on to the next question, let's understand what is the penetration of digital payments in India from the cohort of customers who are already online. Is it 10%, 25%, 72%, or 46%? Again, what we're trying to understand is how many people are transacting online today using the digital payments ecosystem. Quick hint, both the demonetization and the COVID pandemic has actually accelerated the adoption of digital payments in the country. Aman, let me know once you've got the answers of the polls are done. Great, the answers are out, and most of our audiences have got it right again. I think we have a bunch of intelligent audiences. 46% of India's users actually are already transacting online, through various popular applications like Paytm, for the matter of fact. A quick fun fact here: 60% of them are urban users, whereas rural India is yet to get there. Right on the top, they're only about 33%, which is why the national average is roughly about 46% for the country. And the final question for this evening, before we go on to the content, what is the average time that customers spend on their handsets on a daily basis? Is it 10 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, or 2 hours? And handsets would be mobiles and tablets. Unfortunately, I think some of the users, some of our friends out there didn't get the answer right. That's okay. We have about 5 hours. That's about 40% of the participants have actually answered it right. 5 hours is the average amount of time that Indians are actually spending on their handheld devices. So without much ado, let me quickly jump into a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about today, basically understanding the demographics of the country and the consumption habits. Like we had mentioned earlier, so we have about 1.4, we have a population of about 1.4 billion, citizens of this country, with about 822 million internet users, which is a 60% penetration of the total base, right? And about 320 million are the urban active users, while about 300 million are actually rural customers. Now, the interesting fact here is the urban users are growing at a 4% year-on-year growth, whereas the rural customers are actually growing at about 4x of that, right? Almost 4x, 3x of that, at a 13% year-on-year growth. And that really, ladies and gentlemen, really brings out the opportunity which is actually being built out in the country for you, right? And that's where the real growth of India is also happening on the digital platforms, right? Looking at the larger places where consumption is happening, e-commerce as a market is roughly about $74 billion worth, with about a little more than 105 million customers already transacting actively across the e-commerce platform. And this, by 2030, is expected to become a $100 billion industry, which is going to be led by social commerce, which is actually growing 3x faster than actual e-commerce that we've been experiencing over the last decade. Now, let's just look around, right? After TikTok, right, we've had a lot of video applications which are made in India, including the likes of Facebook and Instagram, who are promoting social commerce, right? We've got platforms like Twell and Chingari, etc., who today actually talking about making their platforms influencer driven and commerce driven, right? Likewise, we have homegrown brands like Meesho, and even Flipkart has launched Shopsy, which is again a social commerce kind of an application where customers are discovering, sharing it with their peers, community, etc., and getting the overall word of mouth, digital word of mouth out there to get customers to actually transact on these applications. So social commerce is really picking up really fast. Even platforms like DotPay or Shopify is helping small and medium businesses to set up their own online destinations and share it through WhatsApp for business, etc., to the social community or hyperlocal community to drive commerce and deliveries of their services into their homes. So social commerce is really growing big, and that's where a lot of customers are moving into. Fintech, be it payments, insurance, loans, credit cards, etc., online trading, is currently a $31 billion business in the country. And by 2025, this is expected to be roughly about 1.3 trillion. Now, the beauty of it is within fintech, there are certain segments that are really growing rapidly, like buy now, pay later. Let's go back a decade or two in the past. The only buy now, pay later that people were aware of was credit cards, the plastic, or personal loans. However, today you've got dedicated platforms, even in the likes of Paytm Postpaid, which is enabling buy now, pay later. What started as an affordability program, what started as an elite program where only people with certain CIBIL scores and credit history were getting access to credit, Today, the larger Indian diaspora who's having an online presence and who's doing online transaction with a simple UPI are able to get buy now, pay later. Today, using a Paytm app, you could actually recharge or buy things online or offline on a pay later model. So buy now, pay later is again really enabling commerce and a lot of transactions. And that's something which is a hyper growth, which is happening in the industry. The media, entertainment, OTT, and gaming industry is roughly about 28 to 30 billion. And by 2030, OTT itself is expected to really grow to about 12.5 billion, which is largely driven by short form video and vertical video in the tier 2 markets, and followed by gaming, which is expected to be about $5 billion. And well, I don't know to talk about gaming, IPL and PUBG and Coda, etc. I mean, the works, So what's happening is the overall gaming ecosystem is really growing very fast. All of this, whether it's OTT or whether it's gaming, in-app purchases, subscriptions, is all aided by low-cost devices, high internet bandwidth, high-speed internet with good connectivity, affordability programs, lower cost of subscriptions, etc., which is aiding growth of commerce across the nation. And a lot of you guys would have really heard about Bharat, and I'm solving for Bharat. The next 100 millions are coming from Bharat. What is Bharat, right? We are all part of India or Bharat. Bharat is actually a marketing terminology, which, and do not think of it like it is tier 2, tier 3 cities. It is just India and Bharat are the same thing. Indian and Bharat, users are very, very similar. The only thing is one is English and one is the local language, right? So people who are using their devices, who are consuming content, social media, their keyboard is in a local language. We are categorizing them as Bharat users. Let's look around. Your domestic help uses a smartphone. He or she has got internet, but they're using apps in the local language, could be Kannada, Tamil, Hindi, etc., right? Their keyboard will be in a local language. Today, most Android phones support local language keyboards, right? 5-10 years back, that was not the case. Likewise, when you look at, let's say, the Uber driver, you get into the cab and you say, "Bhaiya, yahan jana hai," right? And what they will do, they will use Google voice search to pin the location so that they can take you there in good time. So all these users are also connected to the smartphones. They have a digital footprint. They're using UPI. They have debit cards, perhaps. They have a bank account. They're also shopping online. Correct. And however, they're just using it in a different language. And that's exactly what this research by ShareChat and GroupM really talks about. Whether it is payments, UPI, mobile wallet, debit, credit cards, whether it is shopping online, listening to music, etc., the customers of Bharat are showing very similar user behavior. They're catching up to the India as we knew it in terms of user consumption. And thus solving for Bharat is something which is very, very critical for startups today, because that's where the next growth is going to happen. Let's just go back to a few slides. I'm not really going to go back, but we saw that the urban India is already 60% of them are transacting online. The rural India is at 33%. As that gap also narrows down, the overall percentage of transactors in India, which will come from Bharat, is going to grow exponentially, right? So I'm going to talk about what are the pillars of marketing function today for high growth startups, early funded startups, right? And that's people, product, and process, right? In the process is where I'm going to speak and zoom into data-driven marketing. But I speak to a lot of co-founders and founders today of smaller companies. I'm looking at how they're growing and setting up their marketing practices. And I feel that there is something that I'd love to share in terms of having a people strategy for a young startup and a product strategy as well, which both also form the pillars of setting up a good marketing function. A lot of times we've noticed that smaller startups are setting up marketing growth teams, which is starting from paid media and going in reverse. But I think the way in which a lot of organizations should be really setting up their organization for marketing is going to start from SEO, search engine optimization, SEM, marketing, app store optimization. These are customers who already have latent demand. You just need to pull them your way. And that's where I think this is very critical to have an SEO expert to actually work with you on the content front, on the website design, etc., to actually build a strategy around search. Search was also the first thing that came into the internet. Google launched search about 20 years back, right? So that's how people discover products. Today, search is happening on commerce platforms, right? So I think that's very critical. And I think that's going to be very important. Content management is a very important thing. Today, customers are reading things on websites. Customers are discovering things on website. Major brands like Mama Earth, etc., are actually even speaking about how their products are different from other competitors and peers. And that differentiation is really coming out to the content and blogs that we're talking about, right? So content management, content creation, presses, etc., is very critical for startups as well. A partnerships team, and I would say a partnerships team comes before a paid media team. Think about it. Let's assume for a second Cult Fit or a Eat Fit were two different brands, and they are both going after the similar customer who's health conscious, and they could actually share their resources, they could share their programs and offers to exchange their users and drive value for each other, right? This is not paid marketing, this is actually partnerships. So why create a market when you could share the market with a complementary product, right? So it's important to have a partnerships team who can identify such complementing services and complemented brands where there is value creation for both sides of the table, and that is where you can also acquire a lot of customers, build loyalty, etc., before actually going after the core paid and growth marketing, right? And finally, from a creative standpoint, I think it's very important to have a decent creative team who can bring out the story of the brand, who can bring out the core value proposition of the product or the service to the customers. But in the early days, I'm not sure if a brand need to really invest on a creative team or production house. It's best to have it outsourced so that the experts can really build it for you versus you're having an in-house team who might not have the tools or the resources or the bandwidth to actually create such kind of stories. So I think just a small, feedback or advice to my, friends out there who are starting up their own companies or founders and marketing teams out there in terms of the essence in how do you really create a people strategy from a marketing org perspective. Talking about the product recommendation, and we all identify that Bharat is where the growth is really happening, right? Ease of use. Today we understand that phones are becoming pricier and that data is becoming expensive. I mean, 2 months back, most telecom operators increased their packs by 20%, correct? So gone are the days very cheap data. So your app needs to be light. It needs to be easy to use, easy to discover, shouldn't drain the battery. These are some of the basics of creating a good user-friendly application, right? Gamification is a very great way to actually engage your users. Paytm, has been gamifying customers to drive retention and loyalty. We use scratch cards, where we actually, after every transaction, we're giving customers something like a scratch card that they can just scratch and get an offer. It could be a cashback or a branded offer and so on and so forth. So such gamification kind of opportunities also help you engage, drive lifetime value for your own brand. Referral program is akin to word of mouth in a digital standpoint. And that's something very critical. Again, if a customer likes your application, they will want to refer you, incentivize them for referring. And that will really help you grow your base. I wouldn't put it organically, but it's very close to organic growth for you, right? Pricing. A lot of applications today, especially the subscriptions or the gaming side of it today, really complicate the pricing for customers, right? They say pack starting 99 rupees, but when you go to transact, it's actually an annual pack of 1200 rupees. So let's simplify the pricing, get people to sample your product, let people make it bite size, let people use it for weekly basis, let them understand your product, talk to them, and then make a pricing which is going to be suiting for your product market fit. We've spoken about language support, especially for building for Bharat. Voice search, again, very critical. Most commerce platforms are moving towards voice search. Even a little more connected devices today. Like, today when I'm using my Fire Stick, etc., I'm talking into the remote, which is much more simpler for me to search. And I feel that applications who are actually building such kind of features really care about the customer, and finally, customer education in terms of how to go about your application, what are the core value propositions, what kind of features are being launched, and so on and so forth, right? So I think these are some of the recommendations from a product strategy. I think marketing is actually a bridge between customers and building a product. And that's where I thought it's going to be critical to even speak about this from a startup ecosystem perspective. Before we go into the next session, just a quick reminder, in case you have any questions, feel free to use the chat bot. And towards the end of the conversation, we'll try to address as many questions as possible. And now going into actual marketing, this slide would look very similar to most of your management courses. So segmentation, targeting, positioning, marketing mix planning, audit and controls, very critical, and building an efficient feedback loop. I think these are going to be the fundamentals for you to build your paid growth marketing strategies. And let me talk about segmentation, targeting, and positioning today. I'm going to take about 2 use cases, and we've spoken about India versus Bharat, right? Now, both audiences are very similar in terms of their consumption habits. However, both of them have different types of content that they consume in different languages. So if I were to look at a media plan where I want to target customers in the Bharat cohort, I'm not going to simply put a filter of location and go after tier 2, tier 3 cities, because Bharat is also an urban phenomenon. I'm going to choose those kind of platforms and distribution platforms that aid me to impact or rather target those customers in that specific cohort, and use proxies of transactions and content consumption, etc., to create a profile of those users who are going to be most relevant for the campaign. In addition to that, how do you customize your creatives, and what kind of customization is available, whether it's video, engagement driven, GIF, banner ads, rich media, are very critical for this user cohort. So based on the kind of segment and core target group that the brand is focusing on, you will have to tailor your marketing campaign. We'll talk about data and we'll talk about the kind of platforms available to the cohort and their consumption behavior, the time of the day, the content, the call to action, the ease of call to action. If you want a lead, giving a missed call versus getting people to fill up a lead form. These are ways in which you could really enhance your campaign to perform better. A lot of times in most marketing forums, they say, should we focus on brand marketing or should we focus on performance marketing? Look, I think the most cliche answer is you need to focus on both, right? And that is the right answer, to be honest, right? Let's take an example again. If a fairly known brand were to talk to influencers or affiliate platforms and say, I'm going to pay you on every transaction, I think that has a better chance of conversion versus an unknown brand. So those influencers and affiliate platforms will definitely promote an unknown brand as well. But if the conversions are not going to be up to the mark, they're not going to put effort trying to sell your brand. So it's very important that performance marketing complemented with a good brand strategy is going to be a sure shot success versus ignoring the entire brand side of it, doing some seasonal campaign once in a while, and having an always on performance kind of an approach. An always on performance approach is very critical, but also creating brand, creating conversations, bringing out those conversations. And this could be simple, posts on social media, or talking about some kind of contest. It could be very flashy TV advertisements, etc. It could also be, an ad on any of the major OTT platforms like a Hotstar or a Sony Live, etc., where you still continue to build your brand. So these are the kind of strategies one need to adopt. Even if you're a startup, you need to focus on brand building because that is a long-term bet. All of us, we were all in COVID and we were all impacted by it. But when we got back and we started ordering online for food, we went to those restaurants that we believed. Whether they did or not is a question we do not have answers to. But we believe that a well-known brand of high repute would have taken care of the sanitization and vaccination of their staff. That is the brand versus just paying on a performance for driving seats, correct? And that's very critical. Now, talking about the platforms for setting up your overall marketing function, we obviously have search, social, content, and commerce platforms, right? Search would be Google's, Apple App Store, Bing, etc. And that's where a lot of impact also happens. I think SEO and SEM are very, very critical. App Store optimization, having the right kind of keywords, etc., are again extremely critical for you to have distribution and visibility when a latent demand is going to convert into an active demand, right? Social media, again, very high reach, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, a lot of other applications have come into the foray today. I think that's another place where major time is being spent by customers. You have those reels, etc., where customers endlessly keep watching a lot of content, and that's where influencer marketing and pushing your brand also helps you in driving conversions. We have content, which is again akin to very similar to TV and newspapers. You have AVOD, SVOD, you've got sports, news, gaming applications, OTT applications, audio applications like Spotify, Ghana, etc., where you have a lot of opportunities to set up the marketing practice. And finally, you have payment and commerce application. Payment app like Paytm have very high reach, and we have online and offline data. Whereas commerce applications like Amazon, Flipkart focus on the online customer majorly and online cohorts and signals. So based on this grid, you can actually create a brand versus marketing, performance strategy. Some kind of tools and platforms are best suited for performance marketing, whereas certain other tools like social and content are best suited for a brand strategy. And there are tools such as Paytm, etc., where you're able to do a mix of both and manage your overall media spends as well. And here is where we'll be speaking about the data part of it. And this is a very critical slide, I think, for most companies today, which is owning the data, renting the data, and buying the data, right? We've got the first party data. First party data is something that you would collect by yourself through lead generation, call center, visits on your website, app install. This is the data that's collected by yourself, by the brand on your own CDP. And this is the data that you actually own. However, in the initial days, this data will not be really big for you to make a business impact. And hence, you need to use second-party data, which is also validated and available out there in the market to acquire customers. And here is where you have walled gardens and independent DMPs and consumer platforms such as PTM, which help you do the same thing. The walled would be essentially Facebook, Google, Amazon, etc. And why do we call them walled gardens? Essentially because data obviously cannot be identified, it's PII, but it's technically available only through their platform. So if you want to run a campaign for your brand, you on Amazon or any other commerce platform, you'll have to pay for the advertisement. You can't bring the customer to your platform. You have to close a sale within their own ecosystem, and there's a commission angle to it, and you still not have first-party data about this user. So your first-party data still is incomplete, but then definitely it helps you in scaling up, rapidly scaling up into different geographies, right? On the other side, you have independent DMPs and customer platforms like Paytm and other major publishers who also have a lot of data about their customers. For instance, if there is a motor insurance brand and they want to target car owners, Paytm understands who are customers filling petrol and so on and so forth, and hence we are able to create a very relevant cohort using a very strong proxy to target the right kind of users here. So it's still not identifiable because it's PII, it's private, privacy, etc. is built into that. At the same time, the data can be accessed for showing the ads on the Paytm platforms. Most of us also have third-party platforms that are integrated. So this same customer, if he or she is on other video applications or gaming applications, we could retarget them across the ecosystem. And that is a DSP that we will talk about later. So there is second-party data, which is essentially first-party data of other brands, which can be used for targeting and acquisition. And finally, there is third-party data, which is aggregators or research companies who aggregate data from multiple platforms or through their own surveys, etc. And that's how they collate data and make sense of it. The issue of this side of the data is that while it is definitely at a higher scale, it is highly probabilistic, and the source of data and the confidence levels may be lower, correct? Also, if it is survey-led, then the data might be old and hence redundant in nature. So this is how data platforms really are arranged for you for your consumption. And it's very critical to identify which platform contextually and with data can help you reach the right kind of target audience based on your product market fit and the consumer TG that you want to go after. Moving on to the next side of the overall media and marketing mix planning, I think are the platforms that you can typically use for user acquisition and driving retentions. So you have programmatic platforms. Programmatic platforms is essentially a trading platform. There is a demand side platform and a supply side platform. Instead of you calling up and talking to some salesperson on the other side, negotiating rates and the placement, the platform does all this job for you. It reduces the human intervention of media buying and media planning, and you can manage the campaigns either through a self-serve platform or on through a managed service. I'll talk about here a little more about this. So programmatic platforms are also connected to DMPs, basically DMPs who supply data for you for your targeting perspectives. So you could work with an aggregator like a Lotame, etc., or work with a larger platform like Paytm who has got first-party data, and you can target these customers on multiple third-party platforms, right? So if you were to have a lean marketing team and think of it like you don't want to have a media planner or an agency and incur those kind of costs, programmatic is something which you could really get onto because it will help you run campaigns, display video, native, rich media, etc. It connects pretty much all the type of supply, premium publishers, long tail publishers, gaming, OTT platforms. And a DSP like a Paytm DSP comes with the added advantage of using the Paytm data as well, which you will be able to, really curate the right kind of deterministic audiences, plug it into the DSP, and manage your campaigns end to end, right? So that's a beauty of programmatic platforms: low cost, high reach, high relevance, and high data, and completely measurable. The second type of platforms that you would use is affiliates. Affiliates are nobody else but somebody who charges for your conversion. The pitfall of this is good to scale, but long-term, a lot of fraud, and perhaps also lack of transparency as to where the campaigns are actually running. The third side is search app store optimization. We've already discussed about this. Couponing is something which is extremely interesting these days. A lot of brands have latched onto couponing. It helps you showcase your brand, create an intrigue, give an offer, convert the fence sitters, and you're able to measure the performance as well, right? So couponing is something which is, again, high scale and high on brand impact, recall, and performance. It's a very beautiful slot. At Paytm, we are one of the largest platforms for couponing. We distribute more than 500 million coupons every month to our customers based on their transactional behaviors on our platform, and help major brands actually build their business from a D2C perspective. The beauty of couponing is, again, unlike commerce platforms like Flipkart or Big Basket, the transaction can actually happen on your own website or on your own application. Thereby, you start creating a direct-to-consumer connect, and you start owning and creating your first-party data over a period of time, which you can leverage for your future marketing purposes without having to pay every time you need to talk to the customer through a third-party platform. That's the beauty of couponing, which actually helps you build your first-party data. And finally, you have reward-based acquisitions or incentivized applications. Again, good for high-scale, long-term retention. Loyalty cannot be built because the customer is essentially getting rewarded to install your application or fill up a lead. So there is no direct intent for your product or service. If your product is damn good, if your offer is damn good, you might as well convert the customer eventually. But again, this is helpful for scaling up your overall campaigns, but might not be a great retention tactic or LTV tactic unless your program is very well stitched in for long-term gain. We talk about audits and controls in digital marketing. And I think it's very critical to understand that digital marketing is all about transparency, right? Right from whom you want to target to what customization you want to do from a communication standpoint, building the customer story on your application or your website, to understanding the end metric of adding to cart, to conversion, and so on and so forth, depending on the kind of nature of business that you have got, right? But it's very critical to measure each of these stages and understand which is it an organic source or a paid source? If it's a paid source, which amongst those paid source is actually helping you acquire the right kind of user? Most importantly, it's also about how do you manage fraud and bots, etc., which my co-speaker will be talking about in the next session. And you'll have to work with channels that rank high from a brand and the performance funnels. And finally, every digital campaign is only going to be successful if you're able to build a very good feedback loop, right? Because unless and until the acquiring platform knows who is converting or what is converting, and that feedback goes back, right? It's impossible to either manually or automatically optimize your campaigns, right? Think about it this way. You're using the Paytm DSP. Paytm DSP, you fed in like cohorts A, B, C, D, E based on their transactional behavior on Paytm, right? We have different communications and different customized creatives. We serve the ads on different, gaming, OTT applications, etc., news application, including Paytm for that matter of fact, when the customer is coming to transact. And then we have an output that's happening on your website. Unless and until the DSP is able to understand which cohort, which creative, at what time, which product is actually converting or not converting, there is no way to exclude certain audiences or build lookalikes based on the converting audiences. So instead of doing a post-mortem of the campaign, what's best is to have a real-time feedback loop set up for ensuring that your campaign is effectively managed either through a self-serve or, in our case, we have a managed service. So that's how media campaigns can really be successful. So that's a gyan that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to take a couple of minutes, just to talk about what we have to offer. Paytm is India's largest super app. We've got about 300 million users, 20 million odd merchants, 150 million monthly active users who are making payments. Our USPs, we've got transactional signals, we have got interactive ad solutions, we've got advertising with KPIs and a lot of native ads built in. It's 100% brand safe inventory and got a lot of optimization capabilities to deliver your ROAS. And from an ad formats perspective, we support display ads. We have this native ad scratch card, which is the couponing that I spoke about. We've got the programmatic platform, so you don't have to talk to multiple media publishers and agencies to manage a campaign. All of this can be done within Paytm programmatic, and you can you can target Paytm customers when they're consuming content across the larger ecosystem, with the exclusion of social media platforms like Facebook. And then you've got a very strong affiliate platform as well, which helps you acquire customers fraud-free because you're targeting, again, the Paytm customers. And this is on a performance model. So that's how we give a complete 360-degree approach for your marketing and digital media planning. Yep. Over to you, Moshmi.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for sharing these insights. I'm definitely certain many from the audiences are going to connect with you for their X to 10X journey. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Moving on, we have a lot of brands who spend huge marketing budgets. However, we do know that very few brands really make it to a lot of everyday go-to brands out there. In this competitive domestic market, it's very difficult to be the go-to brand, to be the known household brand name in this FMCG industry. It takes a lot to build that brand value, that trust, to relate with your audience, to understand where they are active, which platform can you engage with them in. And for this, let me introduce you to Saurav Bisht from Mama Earth, who will be sharing his experience and his insights on the brand's growth story, growth strategy from being a startup to one of the most well known household brands in the FMCG industry today. Welcome on board, Saurav.
Yeah, thank you, Moshmi. Thank you for such a kind introduction. Well, hi everyone. This is Saurav Bisht. I take care of the Mamath revenue piece. In the couple of minutes, I'll talk more about like how data and customer feedback can do wonders. And let me start by sharing my experience. Like many a times I've been asked like, what is that funnel that actually perform for Mamath? And can you just tell me about that funnel? Even if you would start funneling that, and it'll reap result for us. So my answers has always been no. There is no funnel as such. It's the KPI that you follow, and which would do wonders for you. So at Mama Earth, there is principle we follow. We call it 4C principle, which constitutes of customer, your channel selection, maybe your creative strategy, and your conversion rate optimizations, right? So very quickly, I'll start with the customer feedback. Customer is the one, like to put very lamely, customer is what, which is service server for us, right? If customer would like our product, then only here she'll come back and buy and product and services again, and their feedback is first and foremost for us. Hence at Mama Earth, we follow this policy, or we call it as a practice, to call our customers again and again, and then develop this a continual feedback loop, right? And this is the first feedback being on the product, and the second would be on our marketing efforts as well, like how I would say how the movement of users is happening on our website or on an application, right? Like, is our customer facing any issue on our website or application with respect to discoverability of the product, with respect to discoverability of the coupon, and maybe the XYZ thing? So these feedback from the customers would only improve your brand and improve the customer satisfaction for our users. And the other most important thing is query resolution of our customers. Many of time it happens like, uh, there could be certain issues with the delivery, there could be certain issues with your order processing, there could be certain issues with respect to the order placement as well, but it's our prime duty and role. And the first thing, if you want to grow, you need to have that CSAT, customer satisfaction, so to the maximum, and then only you would be able to reap out those results. So this is all about the customer feedback, which is first and foremost if you want to grow. The second, which is from a marketing point of view, which is channel selection. Like like Aditya spoke about the different channels that are available in the market, where one should and how one should pick which channel to build upon, or build a funnel upon. So we need to fix it. What are expectations, right? uh, the expectation that we would be having from Google cannot be same replicated on Facebook, because Facebook considering non-intent platform, a display platform, vis-a-vis Google stands for a more intent-driven platform. So even if I talk about the KPIs, that could not be same for these two platforms, and hence at our end as a marketer, we need to define these best practices, like what are the right expectations from which channel. Likewise, like Aditya mentioned about the affiliates, for sure it's not a channel that we could trust upon because of all the fraud things that happens over affiliate as a channel. But then you need to see, and you need to deep dive into the data, like how these guys are doing revenue, and what are the benchmarks, what are the KPI, what are the benchmark that could like even any deviation from those benchmark would give you a signal like, yes, there is something happened, and then you could stop that thing then and there. Yes, it will give you revenue, but then you need to have these practices in between as well. Other thing being partnership and the couponing, which is nowadays a very hot selling properties. I would especially mention Paytm here, which has helped us like growing exponentially over the last 1 year. I would mention we do distribute our coupons, monthly coupons in million, and with the beauty of Paytm is it gives a lot of data with respect to the targeting, and there are multiple options that we could target, right, with the basis of like your male and female segmentation over cities and over basis income. So there are a lot of things that is at our end, which we could actually take and uh, like do the segmentation of this data and market those users. And more often this is like we already like if we talk about general, we already seek for those users who would be like most intent driven and who have the high propensity to convert online, right? And with this distribution channel like Paytm, these are already digital savvy user which have done a transaction before, right? So henceforth this channel becomes nowadays like you could park this channel in the lines of Google and Facebook to do the revenues, and which could start delivering result for you as well. Yeah. And then the other thing is with this coupon distribution channel, your prepaid ratio would also be maintained, because many time it happens with the cash on delivery payment as a mechanism. There are most likely chances that the RTO will also happen, right? But when you start marketing on these platform, your prepaid ratio of orders will always go higher. So all the marketeers who would be seeing us and like hearing all these conversation, this would be great uptick for you guys if you will start marketing on these channels. Third being, I'll talk about the creative. Creative also play a very vital role in your strategies, right? Your communication should be very correct. There should not be overflow of the information in those creative. Even if you are giving offer, that should be clearly mentioned, right, along with the CTA. And other thing, what we have done and what you guys can also do, you could do actual testing between what offer, or maybe um, what offering you are giving on your creative, or is it replicated on your landing page as well. So this is the test that we actually done. The conversion rate have actually dropped when we have seen, like, there was, let's suppose I'll pick an example. If you're giving a 20% discount on a certain creative, on a certain product, and if you take that user to a, let's suppose, a category page where there is no discount mentioned, then there would be a drop in the conversion rate. Vis-a-vis if we send that user from a 20% creative to a landing page where this entire 20% discount coupon code would be mentioned. So every small thing would matter in the marketing, and the attention to detail would hold a prime importance there. And also one thing that you guys can also do, and what we do as a general practice, the different channels that we have, the different segments that we have. Maybe if I talk about Google, the brand keywords that we have, the brand plus product category that we have, the non-brand category that we have different uh, CTR benchmarks there, right? And every time what we do is we try to improvise those CTR. So it is very prudent for you guys as well that you keep different funnel. And with respect to the creatives, you do this testing every time, because CTR is what that'll transfer the user to your website, and only a conversion would happen, right? So CTR is a very vital metric that would play a very crucial role here. And the last thing would be on the conversion rate optimization, which is beyond your channel selection, beyond your customer feedback, and beyond your creatives. There are certain vitals that are there on our website, that against which we could work, and that will definitely help us to increase our conversion rates. This could be your page load time, your TTL. What's my audible?
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Yeah. So these are the vital that could help you build your conversion rate. And one key hack that I would like to share with all of you guys: always measure your organic conversion rate, and try to make a correlation between your organic conversion rate and your paid conversion rate. Whenever you see your organic conversion rate are going up, and in a similar fashion your paid conversion are going up, so that means they are in tandem. But whenever you feel like your organic conversion rate are going up but your paid conversion are going down, then that means there is some turbulence, or there is some hiccups that happen to that very channel. So in that way, I guess these are the small things that you guys can take advantage of, or maybe that will help you guys to like grow your revenues, or maybe your efficiency in the marketing. Yeah, so Mashmi, that's about it. But do I have any question?
Great. Thank you, Saurav. I think questions, if we have any, we'll definitely highlight it to you. We don't see them right away. I think they are still curating the questions from different platforms here. I'll share them with you. Thank you, Saurav, for sharing your valuable insights, which is tried, tested, triumphant, and from a growth perspective, it's absolutely amazing to learn about all of these strategies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mashmi.
Thank you. And moving on, today we have heard about data-driven advertising and the story of one of the fastest growing FMCG brands out there in the industry. But can neither of it be achieved without really tracking growth, without measuring growth, without understanding or critically analyzing your growth parameters? No, that's not possible. And hence, inviting our next speaker here, Ripdaman Kaur from AppsFlyer, who will be sharing the essentials of media attribution with us today. Over to you, Ripdaman.
Thank you so much, Mashmi. Hello, everyone. Wish you a very good evening. And thank you again for taking out time to join our business hour here today. I'm Ripdaman Kaur, as Mashmi mentioned. I'm a customer success manager here at AppsFlyer, also a product evangelist. And I'll be here discussing with you a little bit about the world of attribution, how it works, and what is the exact need of an MMP in the world of marketing. Give me a quick second so I can share my screen with you and get started. I hope my screen is visible, Mashmi.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Perfect. Great. So also, thank you, Saurav and Aditya, for discussing a little bit about the marketing world, what kind of campaigns are leveraged by marketers, what kind of creatives can be utilized, what kind of channels can be leveraged, etc. So I'll be taking a few of those pointers forward, especially about when marketers are running campaigns with different media sources, when they're running campaigns across different channels, and they're also facing something called fraudulent installs. How exactly can an MMP resolve all of this? And how exactly can it attribute your installs to the right media sources is what we'll be discussing today. Now, firstly, today's media landscape is incredibly complex. And as consumers interact with brands across multiple screens, both online and offline, it becomes even more complex. And chances are that you are investing in most, if not all, of these platforms today. Now, let's say there is a brand and you have a website that works across desktop and mobile. You also have an app, and you have stores too, and stores like, just physical stores as well. And as a marketer, it's your goal, it's basically something that you want to achieve. You want to orchestrate cross-screen messaging to bring new users into each of these properties. And from there, you'll engage them to purchase and stay with your brand over time, etc. But doing this effectively is not easy. particularly when it comes to a digital experience. Now, why we say that is because realizing this, we have seen businesses increase spending on digital transformation across the globe. And when I say this, mobile is at the center of this effort, representing 68% of total digital ad spend. Also, this aligns with a broader increase in time spent on mobile, which is 79% of the time spent only on phone applications or inside an application. Now, unfortunately, brands who fail to recognize and adopt these trends may probably be left behind. And it's not easy to create a very basic app experience and trust that your mobile website will do the rest, that it will be bringing in users for you, etc. If you're not prioritizing both product and marketing investment in your app, you are selling yourself short. Like, of course, being a little blunt there, but that's what it is like. And because of the mobile experience is not up to par, and if the mobile experience is not seamless for your customers, your users may turn to competitors for better options. So how can you master mobile growth? That's the question. To begin with, you will need a holistic measurement to understand the full user journey across channels and devices into your mobile app. That is the core function of attribution, connecting marketing to business results. But in reality, creating a seamless user profile across different touch points is a little bit messy. It's challenging, and it's also quite often an incomplete process. And therefore, what we see is that there are three main goals and challenges that you may encounter with the solution for mobile attribution. First of all, of course, as a marketer, you are acquiring users, you're running campaigns through different sources. So you'll find it difficult to acquire new app users if your paid media analytics are limited to App Store metrics alone. And you do not simply just want App Store metrics. Secondly, once you have acquired these users, you'll also want to leverage remarketing to engage and retain them. And retargeting or remarketing, in other words, it's basically directly proportional to retaining users. So you'll also want to convince existing web customers to download your app to improve your mobile experience. However, if you're unable to easily customize and measure the web to app experiences, you'll find significant user drop-off, and your efforts may also be wasted. Thirdly, you'll find it difficult to scale your app marketing efforts. And this is crucial because without a mobile attribution partner, streamlining the data integrations from both your engineering and analytic teams becomes a little bit of a challenge. And why I say that is, as a marketer, you are exposed. You are like, completely out there in the industry. You want to acquire users, you want to engage your customers, you want to retain them. And it's a very competitive space out there. So when you are running campaigns with so many different media partners, which are out there in the industry, you will have to integrate with each one of them. So you will be integrating with some of the top partners, which are really famous out there. For example, Google, Facebook, Instagram, they have the largest user base today, right? And every marketer out there wants to run ads through these partners so that they can leverage the kind of traffic they have and acquire users for their brand, right? But not only these, because Google and Facebook are really expensive media sources, as a marketer, you'll be exploring other options as well. The cheaper ones, of course. So there are various players out there in the industry. And if you will be running campaigns with them, you will ideally have to integrate with each one of them. Not only the media partners, but also the MarTech partners. MarTech partners could be anything like, where you're doing your marketing automation, So all of this becomes a little bit of a challenge because firstly, as a marketer, you want to run campaigns, you want to acquire users, but acquiring users or getting app installs is something that is not the only place where you want to stop. You want to bring, quality users. You want to see a good lifetime value of a user, right? So if you are focused on that side, how exactly will analytics come into play? right? Because you have to analyze the performance of your campaigns, you have to analyze the retention. And if you are completely engrossed with all these media partners, you're just engrossed with integrating these partners, making sure that you go to each of their dashboards, then see the campaign performance, etc., that becomes a bit of a challenge, right? And like I said, your app has to integrate with so many SDKs all at once. But if you have an MMP in the picture here, like an apps flyer, an apps flyers SDK, which is there on your app, that SDK already solves maybe 80% of this challenge of integrating so many partners with whom you want to run your campaigns. It solves your challenge of maintaining your SDK, what kind of events you want to measure from your app, events in the sense what kind of activity you want to measure from your app, and also how exactly can you give a good experience to your customers, how exactly can you redirect people to the app seamlessly. Not only that, but also with apps flyers campaign analytics, or any MMP's campaign analytics for that matter, can help you analyze the performance of your campaigns, which will help you as a marketer shift your campaign budget to the best performing campaign for that matter. Now, we spoke a little bit about what attribution will help you resolve. Let's quickly just take a look at how exactly mobile attribution connects the marketing, and business results. Let's say you're running an ad with Facebook somewhere, and there's a potential user who clicks on the ad. When a user clicks on the ad, the user gets redirected to the App Store page. Whether the user is on iOS, the user will get redirected to the App Store, or if the user is on Android, he or she will get redirected to the Google Play Store. The user installs the app from there, and when the app is open, the attribution takes place. Now, this would have been very easy if you were just running with one media source, for example, Facebook. You are just running campaigns with Facebook, you can directly go to their dashboard and just analyze your campaign performance there. But it becomes really challenging when you are running campaigns with different sources. And like I mentioned somewhere before, everybody wants to run campaigns with Google and Facebook because they're a source which has a really big ocean of users, right? Everybody wants to go swim over there. But they are also expensive at the same time. So you as a marketer will be running campaigns with different sources. How exactly do you measure them? It's fairly simple. When you have an MMP's SDK, when you have, let's say, an Apps Flyers SDK on your app, like I said, it's already integrated with all the media partners. So it is measuring your campaigns from all the media partners and using something called a click look back window, which is basically a time from the click till the app install. There's a minimum time period which is assigned for every source, right? And only if the user clicks on an ad and then installs the app within this time frame will the attribution be given to that particular media source. So since AppsFlyers SDK is integrated with so many partners, let's say as a marketer, you're running with only 5 partners. And we know what are the look back windows for each one of these partners. So what AppsFlyer can do is when it gets an install from any of this partner, using the look back window, we can attribute the install to the right media source. And because the install is getting attributed to the right media source, your campaign budget is kind of getting attributed to the right source as well. Now, what would happen if there was no let's say an MMP in the picture? Simply, there would have been an ad click, there would have been an app install, an app open. And let's say if you were running with only Google and Facebook, both of those media sources would have claimed the install. And as a marketer, you would have been paying to both of these sources for that same install. But with the help of an MMP, it is attributing your install to the right source based on something called the look back window. So you don't have to pay for that single install to multiple sources. And also there is something called multi-touch attribution. Now it can happen that a user does not install the app directly after looking at an ad from Google. Let's say the user clicks on an ad from Facebook first. For whatever reason, the user does not install the app. Then the user sees an ad from Iron Source, right? And again, the user does not install the app. After a couple of days, the user clicked on an ad from Google, and this time the user is redirected to the Play Store and installs the app. Now, based on something called a last click attribution model that AppsFlyer follows, we'll be able to attribute that install to Google. But is that enough? Is that enough to understand the performance of that campaign? Or is that data enough to understand where exactly did that install come from? Because like I said, if you're running campaigns with different sources, you need to understand the performance of each of those sources. So even though this install will be attributed to Google, Facebook and Aaron Source in this scenario, they become something called contributors. They are assisting in that install. So you get to see this entire data on AppsFlyer, on an MMP, that so many assists happen and what exactly was the journey of the install, which of my media campaigns assisted in the install and which campaign actually took away the credit for the install. So these are some of the challenges which a mobile attribution platform will help you resolve. And not only this, but it also helps with cross-device attribution because it is connecting the dots between your web to app as well. Definitely, any marketer or any big brand out there might not only have just the app, just the app for their brand. They might also be having the website. And you might be running something called web campaigns. You might be running app install campaigns, search campaigns. They can be display campaigns. There are all these kind of campaigns that you're running. And measuring the performance of each of these campaigns is important because your entire marketing budget is involved, right? So let's say if you're running an app install campaign on Facebook, you might also be running a web campaign with Google. And then there could be an app install campaign with Google as well. So where exactly did the user come from? Where exactly did the user install the app from? That is where attribution players help stitch the entire user's journey. It'll tell you that if the user first click on an ad for an app install campaign, then if the user clicked an ad from a web install campaign, and then if the user again clicked on an ad from an app install campaign, it can stitch that entire user's journey for you and show you when exactly did the user install the app, which source should get the credit, which source acted as an assist in that scenario. Now, this was one of the challenge which an attribution player is helping you resolve. But there is a second part to it. It's not only that an attribution pair or an MMP is just attributing your installs to media sources, or it is attributing the in-app events to media sources. That is just not enough. That is just for a marketer to understand the performance of the campaign. But what happens about your future campaigns is also critical. Now that you have a certain set of users who are already acquired, you also know that those users who were acquired, they have performed a certain amount of activity inside the app, and you are capturing those in the form of in-app events as well. But when you will be running future campaigns, you still want to acquire users. You still want to, get more revenue out of these users. So you will be running retargeting campaigns. You'll be running user acquisition campaigns as well. So how does those future campaigns, optimize? They will optimize using something called postbacks. Because when AppsFlyer is attributing an install to a media source, it is attributing the corresponding in-app events to that media source as well. And parallelly, what it's also doing is it is sending these attribution of the install and the events to your media sources. And why is that? It is sending it in the form of postbacks. Why are postbacks important is because when postbacks are sent to your media partners, it helps to effectively optimize your future campaigns, be it user acquisition or be it retargeting. So firstly, it'll help you optimize your future user acquisition campaigns. It'll be helpful with more accurate billing, because in that scenario, a media source cannot just claim the number of installs that they want to. There is an MMP sitting in the picture. The MMP has attributed the install to the right media source based on the last click attribution model. And it has sent a post back to that media source saying that, hey, okay, this was the install which was attributed to you. So therefore, a media source cannot claim, an abysmally high billing to you. It will only be able to claim the right billing from a marketer. Thirdly, install postbacks. They enable your remarketing audience creation, because now that you know that what are the number of users who've installed the app, how many of them have already engaged inside the app. Now when you want to retarget your users, you can use this entire data set of post packs which are sent to media sources to create the right remarketing audience segments. Therefore, post packs are important in the world of attribution. And with the absence of an MMP, of course, what would happen, like I said, is all your media sources would be claiming as many number of installs. And if the media sources do that, you will end up paying for a single install multiple times. You will see an inflated CPI-based billing. And of course, the campaign optimization will also drop considerably, because you will not be able to understand which of those users have already installed the app, where exactly did the campaign go haywire completely. So of course, there's a lot of confusion if there were no post packs. These are some of the basic or the most rudimentary challenges which an MMP will help you as a marketer resolve. And of course, there are various other challenges. One such big challenge that marketers face is something called fraudulent installs. And with the Protect 360 feature that we have here at Apps Flyer, it gives you a 360-degree protection from your installs, from any kind of fraudulent installs, because we will be analyzing any sort of fraud happening in real time. That is when the attribution is happening, and also after attribution has taken place. And of course, fraud eats the marketing budget drastically. So having a good MMP which does accurate attribution and also parallelly helps you detect the kind of fraud happening in the installs is extremely crucial, because once you have this entire stack ready, your entire marketing budget is accurate. It is something which is being going into the right spot. And once your marketing budget is going into the right spot, you can analyze your campaign performance better. You can optimize your future campaigns better. And as a result of which, you will definitely see your number of users growing, and there'll be a tremendous amount of app growth as well. I hope that was helpful and it helped resolve some of your queries around attribution. That is it from my side. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Moushumi.
Thank you so much, Ripdaman. This was extremely insightful and of course important as well, because many new startups tend to miss the measurement and attribution piece of it, and it's one of the most important pieces to connect your entire media execution. So thank you so much. Hello everyone, we are over time and definitely we can accommodate just 2 questions, and you can write to us if you have more questions. We'll share the email ID in the chat box here. Here is the first question, which is directed to Aditya. What should be a distribution strategy for brand and customers as they are everywhere? How can we blend this with brand and performance marketing?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question posted by the audience. So, very rightly said, I think customers are omnipresent. And if you look at, and if you relate back to the slide that we're talking about search, social content, and commerce, correct? That is where the distribution really happens for your products or your services. So if you're a product-based company, I think the very obvious thing for you to do is definitely be present on search marketing, start having your social pages on order, try to accumulate followers for the page, target customers who are following similar other brands, because the interest levels will be very similar. But from a scale up or a step up marketing, what you'll have to focus, especially for a product marketing, like let's say a shampoo or a CPG product or any of those kind of products, you'll have to have a distribution strategy that is also going beyond social commerce. It has to be across. It has to be on the commerce platform. Sorry, beyond search and social. It has to be in the commerce platforms. Be it e-commerce platforms who help you sell because they help you distribute to a larger geography. They take care of end-to-end logistics as well. So without having to invest your warehouses, etc., you can manage the distribution globally using e-commerce platforms. Obviously, the cost is significantly higher because there is going to be commission to sell. There is going to be a marketing cost. There is going to be logistics cost. But your capital investment will not be very high. On the other side, I think our co-speaker, Saurav was talking, where Paytm has helped Mamaearth as well. What we did is we helped them set up a complete D2C distribution arm, where Paytm's reach was used by Mamaearth for distributing their products through the Paytm platform using the scratch cards inventory. They gave offers to customers. They had different kind of offers, did A/B testing to different cohorts of users, and all those customers went to their website became the commerce platform and became the destination for customers to purchase the product, and then they manage the logistics, tying up with logistics partners like Udart, etc. So I think omnipresent media strategy is important. What will weigh in is how much budget you're allocating to which brand, which channel, based on the cost at which they come. The cost is not the immediate ROI or the cost of returns. It's also about long term. What kind of data strategy do you want to have? Do you want to build your own first-party intelligence? I think some of these would be very critical for you to look into from a distribution strategy. So that's what it is. And like I said, from a branding perspective, again, there are platforms that blend both ends of it. Also, video advertisements, etc., really help you create a storytelling opportunity. Commerce, social commerce also is a great place to look at. So finally boils down to what your objectives really are.
Thank you, Adi. Hope that did explain the query out there for the audience. The second one is for you here, Ripdaman. Let me just read out the question to you. What KPIs should we measure and how often? Should it be monthly, yearly, etc.? Would you want to take this forward?
Yes, absolutely, Moshmi. So when it comes to KPIs, of course, there are various KPIs that you can measure. And some of the most important KPIs are something like, measuring your revenue, measuring your ROAS, measuring your cost of the campaigns. And as a result of measuring all these KPIs, it will help you understand what is the return on your ad spend, which is the most crucial aspect of, running your campaigns. But not only the revenue part of it, you should also understand the lifetime value that the customers bring in, in the sense that how long do your customers actually stay on the app? What is the quality of those users? So these are some of the crucial metrics from the campaign standpoint. But when it comes to measuring the KPIs from your app's performance, of course, you should be measuring, what kind of revenue are these users generating? Of course, these quality users that are generating. How many times do the users come back on the app? What's the stickiness on the app? And last but not the least, what is the uninstall rate for your app? That is extremely crucial because it's important to understand that if users are installing the app, how quickly do they uninstall the app? And only when you understand that metric, you'll be able to understand the retention on the app, and as a result of which you will be able to optimize more towards retaining your customers. So that way you will understand what kind of campaigns to run better so that users are retained on the app.
For the LTV of the users, that's right. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for logging in and helping us out here to have a very insightful and fruitful session. Thank you so much, and hope we have been able to justify everything regarding mobile advertising and marketing here. Thank you so much.